My Hero Academia, Season 7, Episode 148, or Episode 10, because we're now on Part 2 of Season 7, really focused on our burning, angry heroes. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, Brent here back with your friends. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, My Hero Academia, and they hit with an absolute smackademia right on back in. Sorry for the terrible pun. But Bones, fantastic job with animation. As always, want to make sure I give them their proper props and due diligence with this episode and with this series. And look, with new parts of the season, we have a new opening. I don't personally care much for it. I hope you guys, the viewers, really enjoy it significantly more than I do. I don't think this really transcends or gets across the impact of this season through the song. But hey, not every opening is going to be a banger. The ending, is what it is. Not really too much to discuss in terms of that. But look, the episode was more of a mental episode than it was of a physical episode. Sure, we had a lot of good action going on, but there's a lot of deep reflections and a lot of deep interpersonal battles that were brought to the surface within this episode. And what needs to necessarily be discussed is something that could be playing out throughout the rest of the tenure of My Hero Academia. For those that are caught up to date on the manga, you know that certain things are basically set in stone. We have maybe a month more of the manga and then it'll be done with All for One being the way that he is currently. And the fact that they finally showed the fact that the quirks that were stolen or the user's will can be imposed upon the quirks that were stolen, even if they are removed from your physical body. If an emotional moment happens that can trigger certain deep innermost feelings, that we'd be able to see that ultimately the former user of the quirk can impact All for One to a very massive degree. Because as we saw very clearly and very well established, he was being held back this episode. He is a physically and mentally strong individual. So for these former quirk people who had their quirks stolen and just to be grabbed and held and restricted in a very, very capacity like this is very, very telling of how much these people who have their quirks taken feel about everything that All for One has done. And because they were able to hold him back, which keep that in the back of your mind, certain things can play out throughout this, that he was able to get a absolute butt whooping handed to him that we thought was going to be very, very decisive and thought was going to be something that could change the tide, so to speak. Hawks able to land solid blows. The class of 1A showing up in spades. They did their job and then some. Only to find out that All for One's will is still stronger than the will of those who have passed on. He was able to shed his struggle and then immediately went to basically KO the class of 1A because he was just so annoyed that their speech about friendship and unity and overcoming tough obstacles. He wasn't going to have no friendship, no jutsu here. This isn't going to be Naruto. He's not here for it. He will not stand for it. And he went to go take them out, only for Hawks to jump in and attempt to make the save. Come to find out, someone jumped in to make a save, but not for the kids, for their own pride and their own vanity. Endeavor finally stepped up to the plate and swung with all his might and hit all of his might. And yes, I'm bringing up his rival in this moment in time to take down All for One. He wasn't having it. He was tired of it. And we got to see his dilemma. He was arguing with young him. Young him has disdain for how he's become. Young him hates the man he is, the father he is, the human being he is. The struggle he's gone through does not excuse the way his actions have portrayed things. Endeavor has not forgiven himself. Endeavor will not forgive himself. Endeavor is paying the price for the sins that he's put upon his family. He turned his own son, Toya, into a monster. His son, Todoroki, was an experiment for his own pleasure to push himself and to force Todoroki to become greater than All Might. He used his own flesh and blood as a tool of vengeance against a man who had never wronged him. And the only thing All Might could be considered guilty of is being too cocky and too arrogant at certain moments in time, where if he just done the job, Deku wouldn't have to be going through what he's going through now. But ultimately, Endeavor decides to risk it all in a Vegeta like moment in the Majin Buu saga, so to speak. He is able to not only deck All for One, he's able to knock him down, grab him, and drag him for what we anticipate to be thousands and thousands of yards, could even be close to a miles away from where the original fight was supposed to take place. Then go directly into the battle that they weren't supposed to be a part of, lift All for One all the way into the sky, and decide now is the time that he's going to enact his vengeance upon his own sins through this other man. Unfortunately, you're trying to play chess against someone who's playing mahjong. You kind of got wrecked. All for One thought ahead and is now is going to be using the tablets or pills, so to speak, that were enabled from everything involving Airy and those terrible, heinous experiments. So that's going to be fun to play out. While we're also talking about things and events that are not playing out well, we got our other flame wielder, Bakugo, one of the mans in this picture here. He has overcome so much of himself to become a character that people can really see brightness in. He's upset that All Might made the sacrifice for him. He's upset that Deku surpassed him. And he's upset at himself that he didn't work hard or push himself to become the best thing he absolutely could be. And now there are monsters and human beings like Shigaraki and All for One wreaking havoc upon not only him, but his friends who he genuinely cares about deep, deep down, but he'll never tell you that, and upon the city and individuals of which he truly wants to save. While he may call himself many, many titles, some of which you can't even say on a YouTube platform, he himself wants to be what All Might was. He wants to be that hero. He wants to save lives. He wants to make those changes, and he wants to make these things work for everybody and everything around him. And honestly, I couldn't be more pleased for how his character has been developed and how his character's played out. Unfortunately, he ran into Shigaraki, and that is the last person on Earth Bakugo should be tangling with. Even with as many top 10 heroes as he have, and Monoma playing the absolute save of saves, and I honestly think I'm butchering that name. The guy with the copy quirk, whose eyes have been absolutely essential in holding Shigaraki back, has been able to keep this battle to where less lives are lost. And Bakugo, by rushing in and causing the explosion, got caught, and now his arm got effectively broken by a one barehanded squeeze without a quirk being used whatsoever. Things are dire for our heroes, and now we have to have some of our top 10 heroes rush in, try and save Bakugo, and make sure that the character who's finally made the necessary turn not end up just a footnote in history as someone who tried their best and worked their hardest to become somebody and something just to get tossed aside like they weren't anything at all. Our boy Bakugo needs to pull through, and I would love for you to pull through and hit that lovely red subscribe button. Greatly helps out the channel. We have a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. We are just 20 some odd people away. We have a couple great prizes coming up for you, the viewers. We'll have more details on that after we've hit that mark. Next time you'll be seeing us will be for House of the Dragon, another exciting episode, followed up by the Acolyte finale and the finale of The Boys. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, keep those notifications on. We got daily shorts for you, the viewer. I'm Brett for Geek Variants. Let's talk about it in the next.